Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports. And coming up on today's show, we're going to take an inside look at a recent article released by Bleacher Report that had the Las Vegas Raiders trading away Hunter Renfrow, trading away Darren Waller, and making another deal. So the article was titled "A Dream Offseason Trade for Every Single Team." So 32 teams, 3 of which involve the Raiders. If you looked at the title of today's show, you're going to see Renfrow, you're going to see Waller, but you got to wait till the very end to get my 2 cents on the final deal. Now, when I see articles out there, especially during the offseason, especially articles that get a lot of traction and I get a lot of questions around, this is one of the biggest reasons why you should subscribe to the Raiders Report, because at the end of the day, I will cover news. I will cover rumors. I will also like to be able to cover these type of articles and then give my analysis on them, because it's other people's jobs too to talk about this team. I get it, but it's my job to give you what I believe makes the most sense for the Raiders. Now, anytime we talk about big-time blockbuster trades, I already know there's going to be 50, 100 people probably on this show that go, "Mitch, it's never going to happen." Well, guess what? Some big-time trades that happened last offseason. Russell Wilson of the Broncos, never going to happen. Davante Adams made me eat a chip. Why? Because his trade to the Raiders, never going to happen. Tyreek to Miami, Khalil Mack to the Chargers, A.J. Brown to the Eagles. Big trades can happen, and they happen every offseason. So if you think it's impossible, man, you don't pay that much attention to the NFL. Now, one of the biggest reasons why the Raiders were linked in this article as much as they were was because of a report that came from Jeremy Fowler in regards to what he thought the Raiders' offseason plan was going to be, which said, "I have talked to a few people around the league who expect Coach Josh McDaniels and General Manager Dave Ziegler to continue aggressively tweaking the roster. McDaniels is a big on culture fits and will want his own guys." Spoiler alert, I'm just going to tell y'all right now, everybody and their brother is going to be using this quote. Why? Because it's an easy quote. And why? Because they know McDaniels and Ziegler are very unpredictable. Now, if you like this show, or if you want to see more crazy trades out there that the Raiders could do, like, "Hey, Mitch, can you give us a video on 3 blockbuster trades that you want to see the Raiders pull off this year?" If this video gets 2,000 likes, we'll do it. I asked y'all, hey, 1,200 likes for an Aaron Rodgers in the dark video. We did that, and y'all seem to enjoy it. So if you want to see some crazy trades, 2,000 likes, that's the challenge. Can we get it done? Now, let's actually get into the whole meat and potatoes of today's show. In the first one, in terms of the trades, the Baltimore Ravens traded for wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. Baltimore last offseason, in terms of why did they make this trade, according to Bleacher Report, well, the team was ranked 28th in passing yards last year, and they really think that if you're going to keep Lamar Jackson happy, you got to start adding a little bit more talent around him. Man, we saw Demarcus Robinson do an okay job last season with the Ravens after being released by the Silver and Black, but also you got offensive coordinator there, Todd Monken. If you want to be able to keep your franchise QB happy, which is really what I think the Ravens want to do, adding a guy like Hunter Renfrow can do that. In terms of how much does it cost to get the deal done, this is where we start to differ in terms of opinion. So they say, and I quote, "A middle round pick might get a deal done." I thought about that, and when I hear a middle round pick, to me in my mind, I'm sitting up here going, all right, middle round, that's a 4th or a 5th round pick. And if you disagree with that, that's totally fine in that regard. You are absolutely allowed to disagree, but I'm sorry, to me, I picture a middle round pick, a 4th or a 5th rounder for Hunter Renfrow. So what I decided to do is I'm like, okay, if you're going to say a 4th or 5th, let me look at the Baltimore Ravens draft picks for this upcoming draft as it stands right now. And their middle of the round picks are a 4th and a 5th at 124 and 150. If the Raiders trade a Renfrow for a 5th, I'm going to go absolutely insane. So what I figured I would do here is this. All right, Here we go. 4th rounder. This would be the Bleacher Report trade that I think that they're trying to wrap their mind around. The Raiders received the 124th overall pick, so a 4th rounder this upcoming year. And then the Baltimore Ravens, they get Hunter Renfrow. Maybe this is the first time you've ever come across the Raiders Report video, which, hey man, welcome to the show. Videos twice a day now, sometimes live 2-3 times. Breaking news, we got you covered. But the biggest thing that I like to do is give the nation a voice. So I want to know from every single one of y'all mofos, what do you think about this deal right here? Raiders or the Ravens? Who wins this trade? And it's very important for those of you that do come across your phone or laptop, go down to the comments and type out exactly what you see. That way, when I rewatch this video and I go back and I look at the comments, I know what the heck you're talking about. So my opinion on this trade is this. If the Raiders... I just picture myself going live right now. And if the Raiders were to trade Hunter Renfrow away for a 4th round pick and they were to do it before June 1st, Raider Nation, especially Brandon Jasper, would ride out to Las Vegas, would knock on Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler's door, and they would riot. And the reason why I bring up the before June 1st, because after June 1st, let's not get it twisted, I'd still be ticked off if the Raiders ended up making a deal for a 4th rounder for Renfrow. But when you look at his contract details, it's a little bit different. If the Raiders trade Renfrow away before June 1st, you save $5.8 million, but you end up beating $7.3 million. I'm not going to get a 4th rounder and eat $7.3 million for Hunter Renfrow. However, I do think a trade after June 1st for Renfrow, because of the way that the money is structured, does make a lot more sense. But still, for a 4th rounder, I'm telling you right now, I would want at least a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. I'd want a 2nd round pick for Hunter Renfrow. I want this team to be in win now mode. Raider Nation, we got an awesome sponsor here on the Raiders Report, and anytime that I do this show, obviously I want to be able to provide great content, but I also want to make your lives easier and plus save a little bit of money. And that's what Cultivate's going to help you guys do. The Raiders Report is sponsored by Cultivate, the free browser extension that brings transparency to your Amazon shopping experience. Cultivate shows you the brand, seller, or product origin and identifies local alternatives that support local community efforts while saving you money. With over 50% of Amazon U.S. sellers based in China, Cultivate offers a way to avoid trickery from these sellers and keep money in the U.S. economy. Cultivate offers alternatives that are on average 30% less expensive than Amazon, without any additional costs such as Amazon Prime. It can even identify local alternatives that you can pick up the same day. Cultivate users earn free donation as rewards for using the extension, and the more you use it, the more you earn in donations by increasing your level. In fact, Cultivate donates 51% of the revenue they make on your purchase. So, what are you waiting for? Go to wecultivate.us/chatsports and download Cultivate for free. Let Cultivate bring transparency, savings, and community support to your Amazon shopping journey. Support the show and download with our link. It's down in the comments and in the description of today's video. So right now, what I want you guys to do, take a second. Seriously, go to wecultivate.us/chatsports, or when you're done watching today's video, and remember, it's going to be in the comments. It's going to be in the description of today's Raiders Report show. Cultivate, thanks for sponsoring. Let's go to the next trade idea here from Bleacher Report, and it's Darren Waller is going to be taking his talents down to Miami with the Dolphins. And I'm just going to be very transparent on this deal. It makes no sense to me. Like, I get that Mike Gesicki is a free agent. I believe Darren Waller is a upgrade over Gesicki. However, one of the biggest reasons why the Miami Dolphins are going to let Gesicki go, and one of the biggest reasons why Gesicki did not have that good of a season this past year with Miami, is because it was a bad fit. He's a good receiver and not that great of a blocker. That's not what Mike McDaniel is trying to do. So the fact that they're doing this trade for Miami, I don't really think it makes a lot of sense, but I am going to try to just focus on the Raiders here, because one of the biggest reasons why Bleacher Report did the Renfrow trade and that they're doing the Waller trade is the final note. Bleacher Report is predicting the Raiders to go in full rebuild mode. Depending on which analyst you talk to, I can understand the Raiders trying to do that. You moved on from Derek Carr. You want to build for the future. However, there's a lot of other analysts that believe if Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler don't win this season, well, then you're going to be looking for a new job. So it depends where exactly you think the Raiders organization is going. In terms of how much is it going to cost the Miami Dolphins to get this deal done, and I quote from Bleacher Report, the Dolphins might be able to snag the tight end for a late day 2 selection. So just like I did with the Baltimore Ravens, I had to look at the Miami Dolphins draft picks. So in terms of late day 2 selection, well, that's not a second round pick. It's got to be a third rounder. And I saw late, so I figured let's just go with the latest third round pick that Miami has. So Darren Waller down to the Miami Dolphins. The Las Vegas Raiders, they get the 84th overall pick, round 3. How do you feel about this deal? Who ends up winning this trade? If you think it's the Raiders, I want you to type LV. If you believe it's the Miami Dolphins, it's MIA. Remember earlier in the show when I said it's really important to let me know by typing exactly what's on screen? Especially here. So in terms of who wins this deal, the Miami Dolphins would end up winning this deal. But realistically, I don't know if either team makes sense to do this type of trade. Yes, the Dolphins are definitely in win now mode, but I know from a very good source that the Raiders need to be, and I quote, blown away by moving on from Darren Waller. This was tweeted out months ago, maybe a month ago at this point. The offseason, everything just bleeds together. But the Raiders want Waller there. They want him to be part of that offense. When the best Josh McDaniels offenses have ever worked, it was with the 2 tight end set. Yes, Waller has dealt with some injuries. Yeah, there's been some questions about how dedicated he is. But when that man is dedicated, he is one of the best damn tight ends, wide receiving combos in the league. When you're 6'6", when you're 250 pounds, when you can move the way he does, I don't care who the new quarterback is. Any single person would love to play with Darren Waller. If it's Jimmy Garoppolo, Waller. Mac Jones, Waller. Rodgers, Waller. If it's a rookie, you want Darren Waller on your team. So for you to just trade him away for a third doesn't make sense, and it's not something that the Raiders are going to do. They need to be blown away. In terms of the contract overview here for Waller this upcoming season, he's the 6th highest paid guy on the team in terms of cap hit at $12.1 million. If you trade Darren, which he's going to be a very common name that comes up on these type of shows, or these type of articles, I should say, because of the amount of money the Raiders can save by moving on from him at $11.4 million, and you only need $660K. If the Raiders are in true rebuild mode, based on the way Waller's contract is structured, he's going to end up getting moved on from. If the Raiders do truly want to win now, then it does not make sense to trade him away. Before I show you the final trade on today's show from Bleacher Report, friendly reminder, I'm a normal dude. I like talking sports. Yes, this is my full-time job, which definitely surprises a lot of people out there still to this day. But if you hit me up on Twitter, I'll interact with you. If you hit me up on Instagram, you can see that I got a dog Chuck. I got a girlfriend Alex. We hang out. I hang out with the guys here at Chat Sports. Get to know me a little bit more personal. And then if you want an even more in-depth conversation with me, it's over on Locals. Think of that as like the real true diehard fans over there. The guys like Brandon Jasper, Wild One, Trivan, all the real guys, Aaron Devandry. I speak with those guys on a weekly basis. Why? Because I know they're diehard fans and I like interacting with them. So if you want to join that type of community, RaidersReport.locals.com. The final trade here is really not going to surprise too many people because Mac Jones has been linked to the Raiders for almost the entirety of Josh McDaniels' existence as the Raiders head coach. So yeah, the final deal was Raiders trade for Mac Jones. Why? McDaniels and Ziegler, they wanted him. They worked with him back in 2021 when the New England Patriots took him at number 15 overall in the 2021 draft. He won, or not won, but he was a Pro Bowl quarterback. They had a 10-win season. They went to the playoffs, and Bleacher Report believes that the Raiders are going to miss on Aaron Rodgers, and they would rather take Mac Jones than signing Jimmy Garoppolo. This is what Bleacher Report had to say. Perhaps by offering a few second-rounders or a future first-rounder. So that's what Bleacher Report believes it is going to take the Raiders to get Mac Jones under center. So what I tried to do to the best of my ability, because when anybody out there, if you watch somebody on YouTube, if you listen to a podcast, if you're reading an article and they have the cojones to do a blockbuster trade, but don't have the cojones to actually take the time to tell you exactly what it is. I'll tell you right now, it's lazy, and it ticks me off. So I'm going to do my best here to do Bleacher Report's work because they were too lazy to do it. So I guess a few second-rounders is this. I don't know, a 2023 second, 38 overall, or a second-round pick in next year's draft. So Mac Jones for 2 second-round picks. Or since they said a future first, so the Raiders get Mac Jones, and then you ship away a first-round pick in 2024. How do you feel about both of those deals? Because I'm telling you right now, if I wake up one morning, hell, if it's the middle of my day, if it's late at night, and I find out that the Raiders gave up multiple second-round picks or a future first-round pick for Mac Jones, I am going to be pissed. I understand what happened with the Josh Rosen trade. That was a second-rounder. But I hate the idea of, oh, Mitch, this trade happened before. This is what should happen again. In real life, you got to learn from your mistakes. In real life, you got to learn from history. That way you don't let it apply again. I'm not saying Mac Jones is Josh Rosen, but giving up a second-round pick after 2 years of mediocre play for a quarterback is not something that I am interested in. I wouldn't give up a third-round pick for Mac Jones. I wouldn't do it. Why? Because there are other areas out there. If you're sitting up here telling me, Mitch, we didn't get anybody in the 2023 draft. We really need somebody, and it's May and June. Okay, then we can look into that option. But even then, still, I don't really want Jones as your quarterback. The only way that I'm going to be okay with Jones being the quarterback is if literally Aaron Rodgers gave you the finger and said, no way. Jimmy Garoppolo wanted over $25 million. And even then, if you get Jones, you better still have another plan because to me, Jones isn't that long-term option. Why would you give up draft capital for a quarterback who's already 2 years in the league? It's just stupid to me. Yeah, it scares the hell out of me because I don't know what McDaniels or Ziegler are going to do. But just because you trade for Mac Jones does not mean that that's your long-term option. But based off the trades that Bleacher Report projected, he is your long-term option. If the Raiders do this, I hate to say it, but I'm telling you, this team is just going to be going in a really bad direction, and the sooner you fire those two, probably the better. But hopefully, we don't trade that much for Mac Jones. Get him for a third-rounder, you could still draft a quarterback and then hope for the future. So what I figured to do here is I didn't like any of the trades. I really, truly didn't. But I had so many people say, hey, did you see this? And I knew that the article was trending on social media, so I figured, all right, I'm going to talk about it. If I had to rank the dumbness of these trades, Mac Jones to the Raiders, number one. I ain't giving that much. Number two is Renfrow to the Ravens because a fourth and a fifth rounder. And then Waller to the Dolphins in terms of compensation makes sense, but the Dolphins aren't going to trade for Darren Waller. So I thought all three were dumb, but it is a reason why you should subscribe. It is also a reason because at the end of the day, I like doing shows like this. It reminds me of sitting down with my friends, sitting down with my family, and just talking about sports. Are all these trades going to happen? Probably not. If one happens, that'll be shocking, but I still like to have the conversation. And if you like to have the conversation as well, then that's why you subscribe to the Raiders Report.